Speedway Engineering. Oh, they're over in Sylmar. They got this wonderful logo. We turned their logo into this sign for this guy. That's Hall of Famer Ken Sapper right there, buddy. It is Harold Osmer with West Hills Wood. We're going to go through a CNC sign making process. I know we've made a video about this before, but this is a different one. And we've done a couple extra things this time around. So stick around. Here we go. Hey, that's John Redican. Ascot Sprint Car Driving Ace John Redican over there. And Mr. Ken Sapper. Let's make all the jokes you want about two old guys checking out a rear end, if you want. So Speedway Engineering's been around a long time. Ken Sapper operates the place. Been there quite a number of years. And that's their logo. And I thought it would make an interesting sign. Well, the first thing you got to do is take that interesting logo and turn it into something that the machine will understand. So you take that nifty looking sign and create this line drawing format, enter it into our Carbide Create software, and that comes with the Shapeoko CNC machine that I have. And this is what you do. You make the drawing. Then you create what's called tool paths. And tool paths is the direction that your router will move around according to what the computer tells it, and the computer does what you tell it, and this is where you do that. And here's the machine. I'm going to strap this piece of pine down to this thing and hook it up. I've had this machine about a year, and probably do a video of things I've learned in a year of having a Shapeoko machine. There's a lot of learning process involved. It's not a plug and play, but it's not impossible either. So here's some end mills, a couple of collets to show different sizes of collets there and end mills, and so that's all part of the whole process here. And you get different results using different bits. Here's that looks like about a 1/16 end mill. Carve some lines, and that's a big part of the process in this kind of game is deciding which bit to use at which speed and how many cuts you want to do in order to get the desired results. And it's very different from your traditional woodworking in that you're not putting pieces together. This is a reductive engineering here. And you can see we're carving things out. And the machine decides a lot of this. That's what the software does. And as you sit there and watch this machine, it'd make you crazy because it starts here and goes there and jumps across. It doesn't just carve out letters like we would write out letters. But eventually, you'll get to this point. And the machine will cue you to change bits. And you get V-bits and end mills will create different things. You can see a little bit of beveled edges here and some straight edges. And a lot of zones got cleared out. And once again, this is the goal. Now this is just still the logo. So now we need all that color to go under the wood. So first you seal it with some shellac. Otherwise the paint will suck into the grains of the wood and you'll never get a clean straight line. So I just brushed in, and then we brushed in the red. Try not to put black in your red zone because then you got to use more red in your red zone. And there are other ways of doing this with masking and different sorts of materials you can put on there and that kind of thing. So anyways, you paint this stuff up. Don't get too concerned about the details on it. Then you run it through the planer. This is how I do it anyway. Again, there's a number of ways to do it, but here's how I went about doing it. Now I'm just looking for get down to clear wood on this, on all my little details. That's another part of the CNC engineering is if you leave too thin of a line somewhere and you're going to use this type of process, you can break parts and pieces. I did that. So I'm not going to point it out to you, but you're welcome to zoom in on the later parts and find it yourself. So this is what it looks like. I think it looks great with the wood like that, but the actual logo has white, and so I have to paint that. So you use a stiff roller, and you roll the white on over the top because in our three-dimensional carving here, we left the white parts high. And so I knew I was going to do that last. Then here's the part that I've never done before, where I took the total boat resin and filled it. You make a line around it with some hot glue to contain the field, and then you just flood it. And you get this nice, thick, clear, glossy. That's great. So here we are, the bandsaw, obviously, trimming off the edge. You have to think ahead of time as to how you're going to do each of your processes. And I left a gap over there and cut it down a little more with the CNC machine so that I knew I could go to the bandsaw and do something like this. Of course, now that's a rough edge, and you get pretty close, but you got to figure out a way to make it smooth all the way around this oval. So I found a scrap piece of plywood. I used the same program and cut out an outline of the oval, double sticky taped it to the back of our sign, and used the flush trim bit over at the router table. So, I've got an advantage over a lot of CNC guys in that I have a well-equipped hobby shop, and I could just go over there and do this. The tendency for a lot of guys is try to make the CNC machine do too many things. And you can do that, but it's inefficient. By the time I did something like this with the CNC machine, man, it'd be near impossible. So I've got that thing stuck to it, or double sticky to it, and I use that as my guide. And then there we go. And when you pry it off, it'll be a nice piece. Of course, then you need a frame. Well, I needed a frame. So I made a frame. Not so bad. Another big chunk of pine. We're going to cut out a couple of ovals here. And this is real time on the machine, this one. All the other ones were pretty much sped up. But this gives you an idea of about how long it takes. You can see we're not going down more than maybe 1/8 of an inch on this pass. I don't really know. But I can look it up, of course, and I'm not going to. And then it goes down. You can see where it stepped down to make the next lap around there. And what will happen is I'll carve that down a little bit. It won't go all the way through, and I'll come back and trim it off with the flush trim bit on the router table again. So that orange pipe across there, if you will, that's the hose for the vacuum, which is underneath the cabinet here, which is really kind of nice. I do like this machine. It's pretty good. And if you go over and look at the computer monitor, this is what it's telling you. This is the carbide motion program that they have. Comes with the machine. And it tells you where you are in your X and Y and Z axis. And you get different controls. You can stop it, you can speed it up, slow it down, this kind of thing. And it sits alongside. And there it is, still again running at normal speed. And if you do something a little too aggressive, this might happen. It did. But that's okay. Hey, the Great Spirit was with me, and I survived. Eventually, I wound up with this. Looks like just two random ovals here. Kind of is. But you can see the two channels. One on the right is the one that goes down far enough where that's the outside edge. And on the inside edge, you can see there's a tab there, and there's a ledge. And that ledge will be part of a very important part of our frame. And if you flip the board over, you can see where the tabs are. And if you don't use tabs, then when you cut through this thing, that centerpiece will come loose and flop around, and you don't want drama. No drama in the wood shop with machines going, please. Thank you. So that's what the tab looks like, and then you just trim those down to where it's smooth. But you can catch that lip there. And here we are, flush trim bit on the outside edge of the frame. And look how nice that comes out. That's the same piece. You just run right up against the bearing. It works extremely well. Then comes the nervous part. Take that thing and slide it over your sign and see if it fits. Well, you can see our very important lip on the edge there to create a nice sharp edge around it. And it works out great. Yeah, there it is. Gives a nice clean edge. And the back is just deep enough for that whole thing to fit inside. You can see it kind of lifted out a little bit for you. Peekaboo. Look at this edge. Now I could do this by hand, maybe, if I had to. I'm not going to anymore. I have a machine to take care of that sort of thing for me. And no way I'm doing this by hand. Of course, I get out the high-tech spray booth and make it black, because that's the colors of the sign. I do like the wood look against the red and black and white, though. But we'll live with the black for now. And that's it. That's another first. This is the first time I've flush filled a sign with the epoxy. So this was an experiment, and I thought it worked out really well. There's no way I could do this by hand. It's exactly what the CNC machines are for, and exactly the kind of thing I was hoping to be able to create with the CNC machine. Now this is it's a higher level hobby machine, but that's what it is, and so there we are. And there's Mr. Ken Sapper. I made him smile, so hey, it's all good. And he is a member of the West Coast Stock Car Hall of Fame. Oh, man, wonderful. Hey, be sure to like and subscribe. Send beer.